Holy City Center Radio, this is episode 195, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Monday, November 20th, 2023. Inching closer and closer to the holidays, which means the year is almost over. 2023, we're about ready to close this year out. I can't believe it. This whole year, this month, everything going by so fast, and I know this coming week is just going to be incredibly fast as well. I will be heading back to Connecticut to see family this week for the holiday. I'm very excited. Can't wait to be there, get to relax at my parents' house and head over to my brother and sister-in-law's place to see my niece and nephew and, just be able to spend time with everyone. Very much looking forward to it. Still a little unsure due to travel and the holidays and stuff what the podcast schedule will be like this week. I do not plan on this being the only episode. Just don't know if I'll be able to get two in as usual, and especially don't know if I'll be able to get them done for Wednesday and Friday like I normally do. But just go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. That way you won't miss anything regardless of which day it is released. In case you don't hear from me before Thursday, I hope you all have an awesome Thanksgiving. Hopefully, for those of you who work in retail or any other jobs where you're going to have to be open on whether it's Thanksgiving and Black Friday or one of those, hopefully it's not too bad for you, and just hope everyone has a safe and fun time. All right, so with that, I only have one quick thing that happened since the last episode. On Friday, I went to see, as I mentioned, I was going to do Varietopia with Paul F. Tompkins. That was at the Music Farm. You may remember I interviewed Paul and Jordan Katz, the music director for the show, several episodes back. Show was a lot of fun. They set it up with, the floor area. They actually had seats, so certain people had seats kind of close to the stage. They had a few seats up against the railing as well on that second level, and then the rest was standing room. I had one of the seats on the, right on that second level against the railing, but after a little bit, I decided to stand in the back. You know how it is with me and anxiety sometimes. Just there's people a little bit too close because they're trying to get as close as possible. I get it, but they're like on top of me in that seat, and I was just like, I don't need this. I can see perfectly fine back here. It was a lot of fun. As they mentioned in the interview, it's a variety show, so it's all comedic, but there was also some music, a skit basically, and then a surprise stand-up performance from River Butcher. I'd never seen them perform before. I've heard him on podcasts and things like that and was aware of him, but just had never seen him perform live. So that was a nice surprise as well. And got to see Paul's wife, Janie, who I've gotten to know a little bit. She's a Charleston-area native. So that's kind of the connection here and how I was able to have that connection with Paul for the podcast. So had a lot of fun. Was glad to see both of them, although I didn't get to meet Paul and talk to him, unfortunately, because he had another show after, but good to see him on stage. I'd never seen him perform live before and been wanting to, so it was great. Had a good weekend otherwise. Hope you all did as well, but let's get into the news. Some breaking news when I'm recording this. I'm sure you may have heard this by now when you were listening on Monday, but just before I started to record, news broke that former First Lady Rosalynn Carter, who was was the closest advisor to Jimmy Carter during his one term as U.S. president, has died at the age of 96. In addition to being the First Lady, after the Carters left office, they spent the next 4 decades doing all sorts of humanitarian work around the globe, and it's quite impressive everything they've done in their lifetime. And you would think, after the president, being the president and First Lady, you would think, things probably petered out from there. That's the top of, how do you get better than that? And, as far as accomplishments and things, I know it's hard to compare, but they just kept on going and doing so much work well into, as you just heard, into their 90s. Up until recently, really, when both had to go into hospice care. Rosalynn Carter, it was just announced a few days back she was going to hospice care, so things obviously took a turn. But an incredibly impressive person who will certainly be missed by family and anybody who knew the Carters. So the announcement was made on Sunday by the Carter Center. Former First Lady Carter has been living with dementia and has been suffering many months of declining health, according to them. For some more background, the Carters had been married for more than 77 years, which is incredible. And, unlike many previous First Ladies, Rosalynn Carter sat in on cabinet meetings. She spoke out on controversial issues and even represented her husband on foreign trips. These were things that did not happen really at all, if only periodically, prior to them being in office. She was so important to the presidency that many aides to President Carter sometimes referred to her privately as a co-president. He relied on her so much, and anytime she was making speeches or she testified before Congress about mental health, she did a lot of work in that realm. And like I said, just incredibly impressive life for both of them. Sad to see the news that she passed, but if you have a moment to look into some of the things that Rosalynn Carter and Jimmy Carter had done, especially after leaving office, it's quite incredible and impressive. All right, bringing it back here to South Carolina. This week, the state Supreme Court, actually, I should say last week, the state Supreme Court rejected the latest challenge by abortion providers to stall the state ban. Back in August, of course, I'm sure you remember, the all-male Supreme Court, the only all-male Supreme Court in the country, upheld the so-called fetal heartbeat law that lawmakers maintain that it sets restrictions on access to abortion at about 6 weeks of pregnancy. So this decision came after, that decision where they passed the abortion, which is effectively an abortion ban. That came after the previous court, which had a woman on it before she retired, voted 3-2, saying that the 2021 law violated a woman's right to privacy and conflicted with the legislature's codification of Roe v. Wade back in the 1970s. As you are all well aware, Henry McMaster tasked the legislators to get back to work, figure out a way to get it passed, and with the help of that new Supreme Court, they were able to do so back in the summer. It was being challenged because the abortion providers had requested that the High Court clarify when the ban's limitations actually take effect. They filed that lawsuit in September. These providers are arguing that the law left the timeline ambiguous. We've talked about that before. And it wasn't just them. Justice John Kitteridge, who wrote the majority opinion in August, where they passed this, even said that this might not be 100% clear. We've gotten past, basically the privacy concerns they apparently had, but said some of this doesn't seem totally clear. So even he was like, yeah, there's probably some work that needs to be done on this. And we've talked about it before. The term fetal heartbeat, both terms are wrong based on the timeline they set forth. It's not a fetus at 6 weeks. It's not a heartbeat when, what they're claiming it is. It's just electrical activity in the embryo. And so there's some confusion because of that name and the fact that the lawmakers had no clue what they were talking about as far as medical terms and the science and all that. So they're using terms interchangeably that shouldn't have been, and it leaves some confusion. Those providers, Planned Parenthood South Atlantic and the Greenville Women's Clinic, argued that the wording of the law indicated it actually took effect at 9 weeks rather than 6 weeks, which the lawmakers, for whatever reason, were fixated on. So in this decision, the High Court left the door open for the providers to seek action in lower courts. So there is still that chance that although they've already gone to the Supreme Court for clarification, the Supreme Court basically punted it back, and they can go to one of the lower courts to see if they can get, some clarification on this law. So we'll see what happens. But as of now, nothing has changed. Abortions in the state are still essentially banned. And technically, you can still get one prior to 6 weeks. You just have to hope that you're pregnant before that time period. In political news, Ed Sutton, who is a veteran and a local business owner, announced that he plans to run for the new South Carolina State Senate district that represents portions of the Charleston-area and James Island. Sutton, who is a Democrat, indicated that he planned to run for the new State Senate District 20 seat on Twitter, and then that has been covered by local media now, and it appears to be official, although, there's paperwork and all that has to be filled out. Sutton is a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force Reserves. He served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He has also been awarded the Single Action Air Medal for rescuing hundreds of refugees during the Kabul evacuation back in 2021. That state Senate District 20 seat is relatively new due to population growth and redistricting. Charleston was given that district from the Midlands back in 2021. Currently, the seat is held by Senator Dick Harpootlian, also a Democrat and one of Alec Murdaugh's lawyers. He initially was elected to that seat to represent the Richland area and Lexington area. But with those changes, we'll see who Sutton will end up facing in the upcoming election. I just mentioned Alec Murdaugh, and lo and behold, we have some more news on that. So you may remember before the weekend that he pled guilty to financial crimes. Well, some think this might be a possible strategy. So his attorneys, Harpootlian, who I just mentioned, and Jim Griffin, said that Murdaugh was happy to serve time for the financial crimes he admitted to, but they say he still refuses to do the same for the murder of his wife and son, which he was previously convicted for. They explain that a retrial in Murdaugh's murder conviction is their top priority, and they have been working towards that. Griffin said, quote, he feels very comfortable doing prison time for crimes that he did, and he knew that he was going to prison. He does not feel comfortable doing prison time for the murders of his wife and son, for which he did not do, end quote. So the thought process here is this may possibly make it look like he is a person willing to accept responsibility for crimes he committed. So he's, yep, you got me. Financial crimes, I did it. I shouldn't have. I'm so sorry. I deserve to be punished, and that includes prison. I'm guilty, and pleads guilty. Of course, then they hope that means like, oh, well, hey, look, here's a guy willing to take responsibility. So if he's fighting the murder charge, but not those financial crimes, it's, he must not have done it. So that's their hope there. We'll see if it actually pays off, considering he's already been found guilty of those crimes, and they're hanging their hopes on this, possible retrial, claiming that, someone associated with the courts may have influenced the jury. We've talked about that before. Not sure if this strategy will pay off or if it even is a strategy. Perhaps he just was willing to take the blame for the financial crimes, but just isn't willing to take the blame for the murders, whether he did them or not. So we'll see if it pays off for them, but it also, before they can even get to that point, we have to see if there's actually going to be a retrial or not. Of course, I'll provide updates as they become available. That'll do it for this edition of Holy City Sinner Radio. Like I said, I hope to be back on a normal, Wednesday, Friday schedule this week, but with travel and the holidays, there may be some variation on that. So just subscribe to the podcast so you make sure you don't miss whenever any episodes come out, not just this week, but anytime going forward. And while you're doing that, if you could rate and review this podcast or, do anything to interact with it on the platform you're listening on, that's a big help to me and I would appreciate it. You can also help by going to patreon.com/holycitysinner, where you can sign up for one of those support tiers. Feedback on the new website has been overwhelmingly positive, which I'm very happy with. Still plugging away and fine-tuning some things, but I believe by now, if you visited, you get the gist of the new version of the site. I think it looks great, and it will afford some fun opportunities as far as sharing content in the future. But if you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to head on over now. Big thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins of LMC Sound System for producing this and every episode of Holy City Sinner Radio. And a big thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode. If I don't talk to you before the holidays, well, this holiday, I better talk to you before the December holiday. But if I don't talk to you before Thanksgiving, I hope you have a safe and fun holiday. Enjoy time with family, friends. Whatever you're doing, I hope you have a great time. Until that next episode, good night and good luck.